Could the land of haute couture become the ultra-fast fashion capital of the world? Many in France fuming at e-commerce giant Shein electing Paris to launch its first permanent physical retail space. We'll ask about behemoths made in China that churn out clothes faster than we can scroll. Shein's choice of the iconic right bank department store BHV for its launch, and how a new controversy is now fueling the feeling that this global orgy of consumerism is out of control. Shein removing from its platform childlike sex dolls that fly in the face of French and EU laws against paedo-pornography. A symptom of a wider malaise. Shein's flooding of the market with ultra-fast fashion, often peddled on the quiet by social media influencers, is just the latest iteration of an issue with globalization's conveniences. Conveniences that supporters say make style affordable to all, but who critics see as an existential threat to homegrown cottage industries and craftsmanship, not to mention the environment. Today in the France 24 debate, does Shein represent a threat to French fashion? With us from Constance, Germany, David Hochfeld, investigative researcher at Swiss watchdog group Public Eye. Welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Her team makes and sells stylish women's wear sold in her 2 Paris boutiques. Fashion designer Anne Villy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Flavie Houdin is public affairs officer for the advocacy group Impact France. You represent a group of businesses.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Yannick Pons, creative and business strategy director at marketing researchers and consultants Reach, R-E-E-C-H. Thank you for being with us. Reminder, by the way, you can listen, that's right, listen and subscribe to the France 24 debate wherever podcasts are streamed. Yeah, its acronym stands for Bazar de l'Hôtel de Ville, a mainstay in this city since 1856, the department store across from Paris City Hall that triggered protests. These are images from last month when it was announced that 1,200 square meters of floor space would be permanently dedicated to Shein. On the eve of the opening comes this controversy over unseemly sex dolls sold by the e-commerce giant. More from Emerald Maxwell.
Shein may be under investigation over its selling childlike sex dolls, but it's full steam ahead for the Chinese fast fashion brand, which is set to open its first bricks and mortar store in the world on Wednesday in the prestigious BHV department store in Paris.
Shein doit payer, et politiquement.
Shein must pay, politically speaking. BHV must break its partnership with Shein because what right does BHV have to do business with a company involved in child pornography?
Shein said it would cooperate fully with the investigation. It's pulled the dolls from its website and said it was prepared to disclose the names of people who bought them. Even before the latest uproar, Shein and its fast fashion model have been accused of unfair competition, environmental pollution and poor working conditions, making its arrival at BHV controversial.
It makes you feel sick. Just seeing that BHV is proud to show that Shein is opening there is shameful.
This is a perfect example of how fast fashion, especially Shein, has no limits.
On Tuesday, BHV's director pointed to Shein's 25 million French customers, while defending his decision to maintain the company's partnership.
I think we need to remain level-headed. Once again, we have verified the origin of the products. We've made sure that the factories producing the clothes that we'll be selling at BHV do not exploit workers, do not exploit children, or anything of that kind.
More than 20 brands have cut ties with BHV since the Shein concession store was announced. And on Tuesday, Galeries Lafayette ended its franchise agreement with the company that owns the department store, saying they went against its values.
Yeah, that's right. Shein also opening, by the way, in several cities across France in the days to come. The stores, follow us here, are owned by BHV. They use the brand name of that even more famous department store, the Galeries Lafayette, as Emerald was saying. The Galeries Lafayette, which, as she just reported, has announced in the last hours a divorce with BHV, which will now have to rebrand those stores in other cities. No reason formally given, but last month the Galeries Lafayette had most notably blasted the positioning and the practices of Shein, ultra-fast fashion brand, in contradiction with its products and its values. Where to begin? Flavie Houdin, why did the BHV see the need to welcome Shein?
Oh, there are a lot of reasons, to be honest. We studied a lot in the movement Impact France, which is a movement that gathers and represents more than 30,000 companies all over the France. And we struggled a lot regarding the fast fashion law that has been passed in June. And it's still in discussion, but we are working on it. And when we studied how Shein is implementing in France, we saw something interesting, is that it's very complicated to refuse to have Shein because they are spreading all over. They had very different clothes, very many, and it's very hard for them. So yeah, we are very surprised by this decision by the BHV because it's a surprise, and at the same time, it's not a surprise because since many months, Shein is working to go in the French market, to invade the French consumers. And so at the same time, it's a surprise because we are shocked by this kind of practices. But at the same time, their practices are very particular.
So Yannick Pons, Shein has had pop-up stores elsewhere around the world, but why would Paris be the very first place that it has a permanent presence?
Because they work a lot in France. To be honest, they have a strong strategy amongst French population through social media, through influencer, and you say the word invade. They are invading French social media. They are flooding it.
And so why do they need the BHV, and why would the BHV welcome them? As you saw, it's sparked this divorce with Galeries Lafayette.
BHV is a strong brand that represents French quality, Paris, and they use it to legitimize their position in France.
Anne Villy, you're part of a federation of designers.
Ready to wear. Yeah.
Tell us about tell us why you think that BHV signed up for this partnership, and the timing of this announcement by Galeries Lafayette saying, well, actually, we don't want you to use our brand name anymore.
Yeah. The BHV is also in a very, very bad situation, commercial situation, so they just need to have more money. And it's the easy way and short way because, of course, a lot of brands are leaving now the BHV, and that's the good thing. It's the business model of Shein is just producing massive quantities, enormous waste of clothes, and actually it's very expensive to buy a clothes for €5 for 5 hours because the quality is so bad. That's actually it's much more expensive than to buy a normal clothes that stay for 5 or 10 or 20 years.
Just one point on this, and why are the big department stores struggling? We have a record number of tourists in Paris.
This one, it's I don't know exactly, but I have a lot of friends of mine that are showing in BHV, and they haven't been paid for 6 months. So it's a very bad commercial situation for this Monsieur Merlin, that is Swede, I can say. And of course, for Shein to be in Paris, it's the capital of fashion. So it's a way to get inside the market. And actually, fashion is just the opening because after they want to sell so many other things.
All right, so...
they are producing... It's important to know they are producing 8,000 new models every day. Compared to Zara is making 500 new models. And a normal French brand, 250 every 6 months. So it's a waste of quantity of fabric. and clothes that are so bad quality that finally finish in the ocean and in Africa. So it's, for the planet, it's a terrible thing.
All right, and we heard in that report, David Hackfeld, the boss of the BHV, saying, we've made sure that the factories producing the clothes will be selling. Do not exploit workers, do not exploit children, or anything of that kind. Last month, you co-authored a follow-up investigative piece on the one you did in 2021 on working conditions at factories that do business with Shein. What would you say, what did you think when you heard that clip in that report of the boss of BHV?
Yeah, I just heard it first time, and I was really struck by this, because I would like to ask him, well, how do you actually make a chore? Because in that video that we could see, in Paris, we see trade unions protesting, and I think it's good that trade unions in France take to the streets together with others to protest, to raise their voice. But where Shein products are being produced, mainly in China, trade unions are not even able to operate freely. They are dependent. So workers cannot organize and really find it hard to fight for their rights. This is the situation that we saw in our 2 investigations. So I'm pretty surprised by a department store boss who just says, yeah, we make it sure that working conditions are met. According to our information, the situation in Guangzhou, China is still dire.
Guangzhou, where there's, it isn't like there's one giant factory. They have lots of little shops, all garment factories all over the place that they work with.
Yeah, indeed, mostly informal small shops. So we were there twice, in 2021 and 23, together with research partners, to look into how are these goods actually produced, and we managed to speak to some of the workers and to see the situation. And what we find is mainly smaller workshops who used to produce mainly for Chinese market, now being used by Shein and channeled into an international global market. But with working conditions of 75 hours per week. This is what we saw in most of the factories. And in some of the factories, big problems with fire safety. So as you see here, blocked entrances, corridors. Imagine a fire would break out in the place you just see. If the place is not clean and safe, it's really a danger for people working there. So yes, I wonder how the good colleague from the department store really thinks these working conditions are for him safe and good.
And just for the record, the France 24 debate reached out to both Shein France and to the BHV to take part in this show. We did not get a favorable response. So how do Parisians feel about Shein taking their department stores by storm? Well, from the public, it's a mixed reaction.
This will obviously promote ultra-fast fashion once again, and on top of that, it's now establishing itself in our cities. It's no longer just available online. And the problem is, we know that even online, it was starting to attract more and more people. So it was predictable that it would eventually become accessible to everyone. But this has to stop. It's unacceptable.
When you know the financial situation of families in France, you can understand that some people turn to these kinds of brands, because when you have 5 children, you can't afford to clothe. I mean, you earn minimum wage or even barely more, and every night you struggle to make ends meet or fill the fridge. Well, yes, I'm sorry, we can't go to Zara to buy the new collections, so I can understand why people might turn to these kinds of brands.
Very interesting, Flavie Houdin, listening to that clip. That 19-year-old talks about Zara as being this place that's inaccessible for working class families. Zara, which the Spanish giant, which is also a fast fashion brand, their clothes are not expensive.
So it's not expensive, but it's still more expensive than Shein. For instance, in Shein, you can find a t-shirt for €3. In Zara, you will find a t-shirt for €10 maybe. So it's still 3 times more. And there is a difference between the fast fashion and the ultra fast fashion, and Zara requalified it as a fast fashion brand. It is a brand that have a very high rotation of products every day, but Shein is like 10 or 20 more products every day. So Shein is like the ultra fast fashion, and it's a symbol to open a store inside Paris.
So wait a minute. Does this mean that companies like Zara, like H&M, like Uniqlo that have been accused of getting their cotton from slave labor in Xinjiang, that have been accused of environmental dumping, that now they're kind of the good guys because there's worse?
No, of course. This is not what I want to say, of course. The proposal we made at the National Assembly was to define what is a fast fashion brand. We wanted to adopt a law that gathers Zara, that gathers every fast fashion with Shein. But finally, at the Senate, in France, they decided to exclude the scope the fast fashion brands to only have a law for ultra fast fashion, such as Shein, Temu, AliExpress, and so on. And on the price and the social thing, of course, we can clearly understand that family, for them, it's easier to buy clothes for their children if this is the cheapest price. But the problem is that this is a vicious circle. If you buy Shein, tomorrow we estimate that 3 or 4 stores in your city centers will close. If these stores closed, you unemployed people. Then there's unemployed people will have less money, so they will buy Shein. So it's a vicious circle, and we want to fight against this circle, which we believe it's bad for our safety, our health conditions, but also the condition of the workers, the environment, the economy. There are many reasons to stake against this kind of model.
And Yannick Ponce, your thoughts on this legislation that Flavie was talking about? We talked about it on this show a few months back. This bill against fast fashion, which she says has been a little bit watered down.
Yeah, the separation made by the Senate is a bad thing for the environment, for the workers, because yes, as we see it today, Zara and H&M, they are the good guy and Shein the bad guy. But to be honest, for the environment, they all are not so good or bad.
Not so good. Shein, which has fans, particularly among Instagram and TikTok influencers, who may or may not be and the company's pay. Recently, Radio France discovered how Shein employs some influencers, but also an army of bots to amplify their message. Shein, which also, by the way, employs France's former Interior Minister, Christophe Castaner, who lobbies on its behalf. Castaner, who was once very close to the current president, Emmanuel Macron. And Vili, it's a case of, again, these giant global corporations that are steamrolling over everything in their path.
Sorry, I didn't get your question.
The question is there anything that can be done when you see that Shein has these powerful lobbyists behind it, yeah, and in the end the legislation gets watered down?
I think actually the responsibility is all of us. We need to understand that the clothes cannot cost a price of a sandwich. There are so many states between a plant or an animal to a final clothes. You know, it's a plant, it's have been transformed as a fiber, then a fabric, and then it have been dyed and cut and sewn and transported. So every customer needs to understand that we are part of it, and it's expensive to buy very cheap clothes. And We don't need also 20 dresses every week.
Don't need 20 dresses every week. And this vicious circle that Flavie was describing as a designer, or as somebody who makes clothes, are you feeling the squeeze? Are there more and more? Because there's a special...
People don't understand sometimes the price of things, but it's not only on clothes, it's also the music. People are now, it's normal to have a free music on your phone and you don't pay the musician and you don't go to cinema. It's a total global thing to have quantity, but not quality. And so I think now it's a politic act actually to buy something. So, and we have, all of us have to be, to have a responsibility on that. Because behind that, we're in the same planet.
Yeah, so tell me, have you had to change your practices? You're obviously not in the same league. You make your own clothes at a workshop just in the Paris suburbs. You cater to a more affluent consumer base. But have you had to change your habits because of ultra-fast fashion?
No, because it's not the same client. I mean, my clientele understand what's happening behind, and they want to buy also something they can last for 10 years. And sometimes my clothes are too strong because they don't need a new clothes after 10 years. But I feel, yes, that now it's kind of not easy to make people understand that there is worker behind and there is a quality. And so we speak a lot to the people, and they understand, but not all of them, of course. But this is why we are here together tonight.
Flavie Houdin, this question of the influencers, how big a deal is it right now in terms of how today the fashion industry works?
Today, I'm not the expert. I think the person just behind me is, but regarding influencer, Shein and other brands like this use them as a channel to target younger people, to convince people that Shein, as you said, is more affordable, but the price that you don't pay for Shein, you paid for the environment, you paid for the workers who are in bad conditions, and you pay for, as I said just before, your city center. And so Shein is really, and other brands of the fast fashion, is using influence and social media as a vector to convince a new market, like the youngest one, the poorest one, to buy the clothes and to erase the fact that they are doing many bad things.
Yannick Pons?
Yeah, to understand the strategy of Shein, we did a study back in 2022 on Shein's strategy to understand how they do influence. And they do influence marketing as they make their product. So it's huge scale, it's quantity over quality. They use 5,000 influencers in the last 12 months. So
who are these influencers?
They are mostly women because they talk about fashion, and fashion influencers are mostly women. 94% of them are women. They are under 24. And they have less than 100,000 followers. So globally, it's small influencers, but
so what
a lot of them.
If they spot somebody who on their social media pays a lot of attention, as getting a bit of a following because they have an eye for fashion, what do? They approach them?
Yeah, they approach them. They pay them to wear Shein clothes, to present Shein clothes, but they do it at very large scale. They do it more than H&M. They do it more than Zara. They have 50% of the share of voice in fashion today.
More than 50% of the
paid
share.
Influencers.
Yeah, David.
Paid influencers are just one part of the influencer community, because then they have the social influencer strategy, where simply people get a few points and a few discount coupons if they are able to do influencing in their own communities. So it's actually a sophisticated strategy. It's using some prominent influencers, but actually many who are not even paid in cash. They're just paid in some points and rewards and getting more of these products, which is a sophisticated strategy, but it's following a logic, because the strategy of Shein still at the moment is just grow fast, grow your consumer base. And in this is a classical platform capitalist working strategy. And Shein is successful in this. And if we look around, then we see now others who are copying this. You have Amazon developing Amazon Haul, so copying the model. We see Zara now investing more in lefties, so they're cheap brands. So we see others who follow. And for me, the challenge is, if we need to stop it, if we want to change something, then we need to raise the minimum standard for everybody. Otherwise, it will not change and other companies will simply follow.
Because let's just differentiate something here, David Hackfeld. It's not a crime to be good at advertising.
Not at all. It's logic. No. This is so. If you just look at Shein from an economic point of view, then it's a smart capitalist company, maybe with some questionable values, but successful. It's profitable, and there are investors behind. There are banks giving loans to the company, BNP Paribas, for example, and others who see it's a successful business. But I think we as democracies, we need to decide where do we want to put guardrails to this capitalist fashion model. And I see Shein more as a symbol to have a regulatory base for the whole sector, not just for Shein, but for all companies. Because if Shein will go down, then there will be a next one. Then Temu is coming and others. So I think we see a systematic problem, and for this, we need a democratic answer.
What could be the democratic answer? Is it, first of all, what's the standard for guardrails? Is it, David, guardrails because of the environmental impact, guardrails because of labor practices that are taking place halfway around the globe? What do you decide, at which point do you decide that you have the right to regulate?
Well, I think we as society, we decided in a democratic way how our society should look like. And this is, of course, economy is a part of our society. So we can structure it according to our values and our foundations. And I think here there is a reason to act. And yes, environmental minimum standards is one point. Labor rights as a minimum standard is a second point. And then there is quite an easy one that you could take as an entry point. This is a transparency requirement. So just demand that all these companies are transparent about the factories in which their goods are being produced. This would be a first step. But then not only Shein needs to move, then also Zara, for example, needs to move.
Yeah, and we're also in a time when this increase in this purchase of fast fashion comes amid what's a trade war, which may or may not be on pause, between the United States and China. And there are accusations that there's been an increase in what the Europeans say is dumping as collateral damage. That's certainly the claim of the German foreign trade body, VDMA.
So Chinese producers have a lot of advantages. They have the scale effects, they have the fast innovation, they have the fast delivery of the products, but they also subsidize, and we see that. We have been seeing that in the last few months, and especially right now, where China, the economy is struggling, the real estate sector is struggling, the sector. So right now we feel that China is heavily focusing on exports, and of course with that comes more subsidies.
And Vili, this is something you've been flagging for a long time, that the competition is unfair. How is it unfair for you?
Oh, so much. Sometimes I see clothes is costing, even in Monoprix, the price that I'm just paying my factory to sew without the fabric, without the button and zipper and everything. So it's very, very complicated. It's not so much Shein because Shein is so bad quality and so cheap, but even for the normal fast, Zara and all those. So it's complicated to explain people that, of course, I have small quantity also. I'm not producing too much, so I try to also, everything is made in Europe. Now it's complicated more and more. I'm a jury also in fashion school, and when I see all those young designers, not easy for them to come. But there is always a place for creativity, but people just need to understand that there is a normal price to things. Dress cannot be 5 or 20 euro. It's just impossible. Or behind you have slavery, and that's the fact of Shein, and you have terrible quality because it's also polyester, and polyester is plastic, and plastic go to your body first of all, and it's going to the sea, and it's dangerous.
And just to be clear, how many employees do you have?
So we are only 4.
So it's a classic small business. Let me turn to you, Flavie Houdin. These clothes coming in industrial quantities, does that mean the end of cottage industries in places like France? Is it impossible to resist?
There's two things. The first thing, we called this situation as a vice premium. What is a vice premium is a competitive advantage for companies that externalize the social and environmental costs of their production, allowing them to have unbeatable prices as a Shein. So fast fashion isn't actually cheap. Because it's just that someone else pays the price. Is the environment, is the social, and so on. So let's be clear about this first point. The second point is that it is possible to regulate, but we need to be courageous, and Europe can be the leader of this territory when we believe that the health, the environmental, and the fair competitiveness is important for our companies, for our markets. And so that's why in France, the Mouvement Impact France and En Mode Climat and other organizations advocate to have this law that define what is fast fashion, that ask to combat the vice premium by a bonus and a malus situation, ban and at least regulate the advertising, because as you just said, they are very good as advertisers, so there is something about it. There is also the taxation for small parcels, for instance.
And you heard David Hackfeld talk about traceability of the products.
Yeah, traceability, of course. For instance, in Europe, you have this regulation, the CSDDD, which asks to have a better traceability. And so, yeah, of course.
But that's not enforced.
It's enforced, but in discussion. So we are advocating to have an ambitious text about it, of course, because we believe that, of course, if we are unable to trace out all the supply chain and so on, it will be very hard to find this kind of companies.
David Hackfeld, you've heard in this discussion our French panelists here bemoaning how attempts to try to rein in fast fashion through legislation have been watered down at the national level. Why would it go any better at the European level?
The thing is, we have seen for far too long a laissez-faire in many markets. So not just in France, also in other European markets and in Switzerland too, where my organization is based. But I'm actually hopeful that now we see a turn in this debate. We see the European Union bringing forward an EU textile strategy. We see also discussions in other markets happening, like in Switzerland, in the US even, when it comes to certain cities. So the thing is, what is for sure is that Shein will develop. What we don't know, but I believe in, that we will develop regulation to bring this market in order. And yes, doing it for a European market with this size, this is actually a critical size where you can structure a market, where you can take decisions on minimum standards when it comes to environment, to consumer protection, and so on. So I believe in the power of democracy, and I believe that this landscape will change. And let's see if this shop in Paris of Shein will really be permanent, or whether the landscape will change again.
Yannick Pons, do you think that shop will be permanent? And do you think, like David just said, that this is actually perhaps a turning point, the fury that we've seen this week, or will that go away and people will continue looking for the cheapest bargain?
This is surely a turning point because everybody is talking about it. We are talking about it today. So this is a turning point that can be good or bad. And I think that the right moment to have some actions, so it's not a permanent thing. BHV look like they are opening and they are sticking to it, but consumer got the answer. If consumers won't come to BHV, they will have to close or to stop this partnership.
And Vili, what's your prediction?
I want to be positive. I think that perhaps it's a way people suddenly understand, because we went so far that suddenly I think a lot of people realize what it means. And there are also a lot of people who have now problem with skin after they are trained clothes and a real health issue of that. So I hope that it will be like the last, that it will wake people to realize that we cannot go this way.
You say health issue, what do you mean?
Because, it's a lot of toxic, in Europe, for example, there are a lot of law when you dye a fabric. For example, black is a very strong color that can be very bad for the body. And so if you don't follow all these rules, it is dangerous. When you think about underwear that you have in your body, there are problems like that, of course. And without speaking of working.
Yeah, about the working conditions for those who make the clothes. Flavie Houdin, one of the things that's made this suddenly come to a head is this scandal that broke on Monday with, because there's Shein, the clothes maker, but there's also just Shein, the e-commerce platform, and the sale of these childlike sex dolls. That's illegal in France and in the European Union. They've taken them down. They say that they'll make sure it won't happen. Again, what does that tell you, though, about? Does it tell you that it's all out of control?
Yeah, I think this is just a demonstration about something we already knew before, is that Shein and platforms such as Shein are not controlling what they are selling. Why? Because as we just said before, they have 10,000 new models and new things every day. So of course it's impossible to verify everything. So that's why what is happening is that there are this scandal. I'm very shocked about this situation. Of course, it's scandalous, but it's just for me the consecration of the fact that they are not controlling the things they are selling. They don't take their responsibility because we believe that brands like this should have a responsibility, because at the end, the consumer can suffer of health issues. The children, they buy a little object and gift that are very nefast for the health. So they have a responsibility. We need, of course, the citizen, but also the states. Because the state have a role and it has to take it. And so, the regulation has to be done, because if we don't regulate today, it will be very hard to stop the machine.
David Hackfeld, earlier you were describing how sophisticated Shein and being able to pinpoint influencers. The same e-commerce giant can't or doesn't control who puts what on its platform?
Well, of course they could, but for them, speed and a large offer is the priority. If you go to Shein website at the moment, you will notice that Shein has changed already from a brand to a marketplace. So now what is sold, if you buy something, you already buy it at smaller companies already, because Shein is smart and they think in advance. They also think, oh, now a regulation will come. The regulation will target big companies. So actually, let's develop into a platform and have many smaller businesses just selling through our platform. And this is then what happens. You just allow everybody to put things in your platform, as other platforms also do. Think of Temu, but think also of Amazon. But indeed, when we did our research, we discovered that Shein is able to trace back a product that has a quality problem to the workers who made it. And this led to these workers having to work for free to do some fixing problems. So indeed, they have the knowledge, they have the information who produced their goods. They are simply just using them for their own business purpose and not for the good.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for now. David Hackfeld, I want to thank you so much for joining us in Constance in Germany. Anne Villy from her store on the right bank of the Seine. You have another store, I know, on the left bank. With us as well, Flavie Houdin, Yannick Ponce. I want to thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. Coming up at the top of the hour, Mark Owen will have all the day's news, including a breaking story, and that is the release after more than 3 years in jail in Iran of French nationals Cécile Colère and Jacques Paris. They were arrested in 2022 on the last day of a vacation in Iran, both of them teachers. French President Emmanuel Macron making the announcement on social media, expressing huge relief. The pair currently at the French embassy in Tehran. We'll have more to come at the top of the hour with France 24's Mark Owen. That's it for now. Thanks for joining us. And there's more on our website, france24.com.